All right, this is part two. So you're plugged into the wall. The foot switch is plugged in. We're gonna plug in now. There's first thing you got is you got two inputs. One says low gain, one says high gain. What that means is what the amp's going to do to your signal, not what it expects you to plug in. And so what it means is the low gain actually means the circuitry inside in this amp. Some amps are different, but this amp low gain means that the signal gets immediately dampened by 6 decibels if you run through the low gain. So if this would be if you wanted to, one example would be as if you wanted to play this in home and you wanted to be a little quieter, you'd play it in the low gain. The high gain is basically just a normal input. It takes the full signal and it's going to use it all. So you're always going to probably, unless your odds are good 99% of the time, you're going to want to use the high gain input because you're not going to be playing this anywhere in your bedroom or anything. You've got better bedroom amp options. Number two, you're all plugged in, powered in. You got two switches on the right. You've got a power and you got standby. Leave the standby marked to standby. This is really common with tube amps because people like to have the amp on and the tubes heating up, which literally plays a role in how they sound. But they don't want the amp hissing or to have the amp have noise coming into it, potentially making noise while they're setting things up. So standby basically means there's nothing going to the speaker, but everything else is on. So power on, leave it in standby. And with tube amps, the first time you turn the amp on, if you started playing right through it, you wouldn't actually hear anything for a few seconds. Usually it takes a few seconds for the tubes to start passing a signal through. So while you're powered on, you can take a look. You're in standby and you can take a look at the switch and you got all the lights on here letting you know that there's power going into the foot switch. That's good. Now when you're starting out with any amp and you're just getting a feel for it, my first advice is turn everything up to the middle, except turn your reverb off. Look for anything that says gain or volume and turn those down to nothing. In this case, the crunch gain channel has pre and post. Turn those to 0. The ultra gain pre and post, turn those to 0. Ooh, that guy's a little loose. Okay. This way you won't accidentally blow the house down when you start messing around with it. So we're going to look at this. The way this pedal switch works, when the clean channel is on, it also says bypass, right? So when the bypass is lit, that means you're getting the clean channel. So just think green light, green channel, no matter what's going on over here. But it says bypass because it means it's bypassing the gain channels. So we're going to turn off the clean channel, and you'll notice that this switch bounces between ultra gain and crunch gain, whatever you want to think about it. Ultra can be like your lead. Crunch, I think the gist of it, the way you might think about it, is that ultra is more distortion, crunch is more overdrive. But it doesn't really matter. Once you get a feel for which ones you like better, or you get them both set up the way you want them, it's just basically a 3-channel amp, clean and 2 gain channels. And when you hit the green, you're back on clean. Reverb, you can turn on or off. You can set it and leave it on forever and just have it at a modest setting, or you can have a lot of it for one specific use and turn it on and off. Your choice. Okay, so we're gonna start on the clean channel. Here's your clean channel. There's a button that says push for bright. Don't push that until you feel like you need it. And then we're gonna mess around here. So we can turn on that switch, we're out of standby. You can see the green light for status is on. That means you are on and no longer in standby. My guitar is currently dimed out, but the clean channel is... I'm going to pause a second here. Had to do a quick tune up there. All right, so I'm all dimed out on my guitar. Clean channel is at nothing. We're going to start turning up. And you can hear this. That's a staticky pot. The filaments in pots over years and years and years can get a little corrosion. And when you try to switch, the electrical conductor runs over those corroded spots and it gets a little scratchy. Usually, you can tell if it's that because you spin it a lot and it goes away. If it doesn't go away, it's probably something in the circuitry. But anyway. But once even if you have scratchy pots, it's annoying, but at least as long as you can get to a volume that you need, you can get by. They also have like contact cleaning sprays and stuff that if you took an amp to be serviced, that's what they would do. They would spray cleaner in the pot, spin it a bunch of times and see if that took care of it. But anyway, here's my clean channel. It's nice. Alright, so we're going to leave it at that volume. I am now going to stomp the bypass to put us into the gain channels. And that's why I've got no volume. Right now I'm on ultra gain, so I'm going to slowly bring these guys up. And generally speaking, when you're dealing with amps that have a pre and post, or a gain and volume, or a gain and master, or a volume and master, any of those, like my Nomad, it goes volume master. My Peavey, my other Peavey is gain, volume, some combination. But basically what those mean is one handles the amount of signal that goes into the front part of the preamp, and one handles the amount of volume that gets jacked up to at the end. So pre is also the kind of gain, and almost always when you have this set up, the pre is also going to set the amount of distortion because that's going into the preamp, sets the clipping level and all that. So watch what happens as I crank up this pre section. Hear the whistle. Now if I go way low, and let's say I turn the post up real high, and with no gain, see the gain at the very low end of this pot is real filthy. It needs to be cleaned. But I'm just going to give a tiny bit of pre post, and you can hear it's not fuzzy compressed distortion anymore. Now it's just obnoxious kind of biting. So you get the gist. So This is going to behave the same way on the crunch channel. If you're looking for this channel to be like a distortion channel, you're going to want more pre than post, but you can play around with it. And that's the other kicker in all this, is that especially when you're playing with other guitarists, you want to make sure that you don't make a noise that disappears. So you don't necessarily want all one and none of the other. You want to find the right balance. See, so that's got a lot more bite. If I just go real low on the post and heavy on the pre, I get a neat, smooth distortion. It's nice and cool, but it's also prone to kind of getting muddy with other guitars. I bring it down and I bring up the post. That's still a little, that's it. That doesn't have enough kind of metally for me. That's still just more overdrive, which in the right setting. Yeah, there it works nice. That almost gives you a little bit of a stratty kind of overdrive gain, overdrive bluesy sound. But I want a little more metal here. That's got more bite, but still has a good bit of the distortion fuzz. So I like that a little bit. I feel like that's got a little more bite, but there you go. But that's the whole gist, is that you're going to fool around with those two settings to get enough bite to cut through the mix, but the right amount of meat to your distortion to fit like what you're doing. You're playing Pantera, you don't want just a clean overdrive. You might, to balance out what the other guitars is doing, but most likely I'm going to want to have more of that. So we're going to bring this guy down, just for the purposes of recording. All right, I'm going to stop there for part 2.